Hey, what's going on, guys? Dan Watson, Learning Cameras. And if you haven't seen our two hands-on videos with these two cameras, you need to go check those out because those are pretty awesome and go really in depth on these two cameras. But if you're looking at one of these cameras, you're probably wondering which one is for me, and that's a big question. And although these cameras share a lot alike, like the sensor and all these kind of things, they are very different in usability and how they are different. So I want to kind of break these down for you and give you some information about either one of them, kind of help you make a decision on which one might be the best choice. So this is the Canon 90D, and it's probably the most familiar to all of you. I mean, I've done reviews on the 70D, 80D, and now the 90D. And in many ways, this is going to be building upon what Canon has done before. And it gives you some of the features that they put into some other cameras, even some of their pro-end cameras like the 7D Mark II, and brought those down into a camera like this. So why would you want this camera? Well, this camera is a traditional DSLR style, so it's going to have a bigger body that's going to get you a little bit more weather sealing, the bigger battery, which is going to have better battery life on that. You get a lot of extra controls on here, and then that optical viewfinder, which is great because not only do you get that optical feel when you do want it, but you can also throw this camera into live view, and then you have that articulating screen. You have the same dual pixel autofocus system that you have on the other camera. So in many ways, this is like the best of both worlds when it comes to ergonomics and feel. Also, the screen does flip out entirely. So if you want to do something like vlogging or self-shooting, the other one has a flip up screen, but this one will do it in a way that won't obscure things like shotgun mics or flashes, whatever else you might mount to this camera. So in many ways, it's a little bit better for that. As far as image quality, it's basically the same as the M6 II, and so we're not going to dive too much into that, but what we will take a look at is some of the features that it has, because it does have some more than the M2 in some ways. And one is, although you're going to get a little bit faster shooting than before, so we can shoot up to 10 frames per second on this camera, it's not quite as fast as the M6, and we'll talk a little bit more about that speed. Also, when it comes to video, there are some differences too. You do have the same 4K at 30 frames per second, and no, it's no 24 frames per second. I don't know why Canon's still leaving it out, but they are on these cameras. And so you get 30 frames per second in 4K, no crop. And then you also have 1080p up to 60 frames per second and that 120, same as the other camera. What is different about this one is you do have the ability to crop in and get a little bit further in if you do want that. And it's a great feature to have, especially when using primes. You can basically get like 2 different focal lengths out of this camera. So I really like having that. This is my main shooter for video. Also, we have a headphone jack, which we do not have on the other one, and a mini HDMI instead of a micro HDMI, which I would see all of those as upgrades on there. And then the flip out screen, which can be a little bit easier to handle depending on the circumstance for video. So for video shooters, it seems to be a little bit better camera. And then in my brief testing, in that crop mode, it was actually a little bit more detailed. So they might be doing some kind of oversampling or something like that to give that a little bit better of a look, but I'll show you guys that. But you can see that it's a little bit more detailed in that crop mode. So having it is going to be a great thing and going to give you a little bit better quality on the video side. Now with that optical viewfinder and screen means you're going to get 2 different autofocus systems in that camera, and it can be great to kind of choose between those based on which is best. So the fastest mode is going to be looking through the viewfinder like a DSLR for tracking our cars. That was the most successful at following super high speed very reliably, and it is very, very good for that. However, when it comes to intelligence of the autofocus system, while it does have some of the intelligent autofocus features like facial tracking from their higher end cameras from Canon, it's just not as good as using the live view dual pixel focus system, which is going to give you eye tracking and a lot of other things, and much better when it comes to just tapping on your subject or general tracking of subjects in general. So it's great to have both. So if you're in a circumstance that needs that DSLR high speed autofocus system, it's there. Although the dual pixel autofocus system did do well in just about everything we threw at it, I still think that the traditional autofocus system using those phase detection points is a little bit faster. And then the big thing is going to be a lens mount. So this is an EF mount, and that is going to mean you have the entire suite of EF lenses at your availability. The new RF lens mount is coming out, so it's not going to future-proof you entirely from that. So keep in mind, EF mounts might be going away in the short term or in the long term, but in the short term, you have a tremendous amount of lenses that are very good quality, all that are available is very easy to find them. You can rent them, you have friends with them. So it is really nice to have that with this camera while you're gonna have a different lens mount with the M6. So let's talk about this M6, and in general, it is a much smaller body, extremely compact. You have these compact lenses like this 22mm right here. I have this f2, and it is great. The 32mm f1.4, one of my favorite lenses for this camera. So you do have some very compact, great quality prime lenses for this. The zooms, I'm not that impressed with the zooms. They're okay, but so if you're looking for a system with great quality zooms, this is not going to be it. However, you can get adapters from this to go to normal EF lenses. Now with this smaller body style, it does mean you have a smaller battery. So keep that in mind, and you have a little bit less controls than you would on the other one. You do have that flip up touchscreen. Nice to see. It does give you a lot of articulation, but not quite as much as a flip out screen. So take it for what it's worth. And then if you're looking for some video jacks and video options on this one, you're going to have a micro HDMI out and then no headphones. So just keep that in mind. There's some limitations when it comes to that. Also, there's no viewfinder at all on this. It is going to be an attachment that hooks onto the top. It can come with it depending on the kit that you get, so that's great to see. And then you do have that option if you want to do that, but if you do mount a microphone or something like that or a flash to this terminal, you will not have the ability to have that electronic viewfinder, so you're going to be relying on the screen. Now the screen is pretty good quality. I'd actually say that the 90D does seem like it's a little better quality screen on here, but it does really well. The touchscreen works very effectively. The dual pixel AF is getting faster every iteration with that Digic 8 processor now. It is mind-blowingly fast and very effective. Tracking works well. Eye autofocus works well as long as the subjects are a little bit closer to you, and we might see some better improvements via firmware very soon, so we'll see what that holds. But overall, it's a very good compact camera if you're into that. Now let's talk about this lens mount. Okay, so yes, this is the EFM mount, and I wish that they might have changed this, and the reason is I haven't seen any good quality zoom lenses for this mount. So the kit lens it comes with is just going to be okay, and then you do have a couple decent options on primes, primarily this 22mm f2 and the 32mm f1.4. And also keep in mind you can use adapters with the EF lenses. However, it's just adding bulk and kind of goes in the wrong direction. So I really like the compact feel of these. It's just that you're going to be stuck in a lens mount that only works with these M series cameras. Now, one of the big advantages of the M6 is going to be speed. I mean, you're talking 14 frames per second here, which is insane. They also have a raw burst mode, which can capture up to 30 frames per second in RAW, and you can use a little lower quality RAW or smaller RAW, but you can pick your RAW file that you want to take from a burst, a huge burst, for a couple seconds, and at 30 frames per second, you can pick that exact moment that works well for you. So the speed on this is incredible, and that's really one of the more defining attributes for it. It's kind of interesting because I don't think that speed is going to matter to most people, especially when 10 frames per second and other high-speed cameras are really plenty. So having 14 frames per second kind of seems more than enough, but it is there, and if you want high speed, this is going to be it. And combined with the dual pixel tracking, it worked really well at tracking even fast cars moving down the track for us. I wouldn't call it quite as fast as a traditional good DSLR system, but it worked really well. So for me, I mean, if you watch my channel at all, you know I'm an avid mirrorless user, but I did find that the 90D had quite a few advantages in so many ways that I ended up using it more, especially because I was shooting a lot of video. It gave me more advantages with the fast-moving cars of having two different types of autofocus systems, having the optical viewfinder, which is really great for those situations because there's zero lag. Although I do like having an EVF, if I do need it, I can put it in live view and get that normal exposure and see exactly what I'm shooting through my rear screen, and the screen is great on this camera. So I did find myself using the 90D more. The issue is going to be compactness. So if you want a small lightweight camera, you don't mind kind of sticking with a lens mount system that is probably going to go away in the future, but is going to give you a lot of advantages in size and weight in the meantime, the the M6 Mark II is going to be the camera for you. And if you don't mind going to something a little bit larger, I do think that the features on the 90D give it a compelling option, and especially if you're shooting video, having mini HDMI and the headphone jack and the flip out screen and the crop modes, just give it a little more advantage than the M6 Mark II. It's pretty rare that a DSLR is going to be to mirrorless for video, but Canon has chose to do it that way for some reason. I don't know if it's because of heat dissipation, it might be something like that, but this is going to be your video champ for you. So depending on what you're shooting, high speed, video, it might be a tough call between these, but yes, for me, I tended to use the 90D just a little bit more because it gave me a little better ergonomics, more controls. I didn't need the compactness while I was shooting in these situations, and then the better video. So if you have any questions, I'll be hanging out in the comments. I always try to answer those, so let me know there below. Thanks for hanging out with some cool cars and watching this, and definitely check out the hands-on for both of these cameras. And again, appreciate you guys watching and supporting the channel, and we'll see you real soon in some cool videos we've got coming up real soon.